CEO Barry O'Shea. Highland is advancing the Copperwood project in Michigan to a near-term construction. They recently announced strong progress on site work and detailed engineering as they move towards providing much-needed domestic copper supply right here in the U.S. Welcome back, Barry. Nice to see you, and we're looking forward to your update today.
Thanks, Anna. It's nice to be back to provide an update. And listen, as it says on the screen, Copperwood is one of very few fully permitted copper projects in the US, I think at a really important time. You know, if you look at the headlines recently, the conversation is really intensifying around domestic critical mineral production and in particular copper. And I think that's where Highland truly stands ready. You know, what the US really needs right now is domestic production, and Copperwood is ready to go. It is one of the most advanced US copper developer assets that there is. And what that means is that in the 15 to 20-year cycle that it takes from first drill results to building a mine, you know, we're at the year mark around 16. Feasibility study is complete, geology is done, permitting, most importantly, is done. So really an asset that is ready to go. And nicely sequenced with it is our 1/3 owned asset, a joint venture asset, the White Pine project, also in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So really well placed here. But the focus now and the reason of the update is to provide an update on execution. At the end of the day, to have those building blocks in place is fantastic, but you need to get ready to build your project. Step one, through 2024, we did a lot of our initial site impacts, and now in 2025, we have the environmental mitigations in and around those. You know, a really nice opportunity to prove that we're going to be good stewards of the environment. We're setting up a 700-acre wetland preservation area. We've created new wetland on site, and of course, managing our streams, our stream diversion structure. All really nice opportunities to work within the regulation of Michigan. And of course, acknowledging that mining does have an impact. This is a capacity to, you know, keep that impact minimal, of course, offset it, and then in conjunction with regulation in time, responsibly close the project. The next key piece to execution is detailed engineering. In January, we initiated detailed engineering with DRA Global on the mine and process plant. In February, with Thoth on the water management side, and most recently with Tetra Tech on the tailings disposal facility. This work is really critical to prepare your project, de-risk it, optimize it, really understand the construction schedule, operating and capital costs, all things needed to prepare yourself in the due diligence and truly be ready for a construction decision. Another piece is metallurgical drilling. So we did a campaign about 2 months ago, on time, on budget, collected about 450 kilos of sample that are now with the lab. You know, as a starting point, you retest that you can replicate your original network, and we seem to have had good success there. But most importantly is testing the ultrafine flotation technology. You know, aside from copper price being one of the most influential aspects of a project is its recovery. So improving the grade recovery curve through the application of ultrafine flotation technology is something that we're looking forward to proving out over the coming couple of months. And certainly not to be missed is community engagement. At the end of the day, you need to be welcoming your region. A host of townships and counties, particularly Wakefield and Ironwood, have doubled down on their support with further resolutions of support for the project. We have had Eagle, the permitting authority at site recently, again, monitoring and ensuring that we're operating well, and we continue to have their endorsement. The UP delegation, or the legislators, state legislators, that's 3 members of Congress and 1 senator, have all penned a really strong letter of support for the project. And interestingly, again, at the federal level, U.S. Congressman Jack Bergman wrote a letter to his federal colleagues, again, demonstrating his support. This is all really important from our perspective. We want to be welcome in this region at a local, state, and federal level, and look forward to progressing with that license to operate. And while we're active at Copperwood, our partners, Kinterra, are equally active at our second project, White Pine, and we'll look to benefit from their activity. They're putting their time, capital, and energy. They did significant drilling to collect geotech and met samples in 2024. They're now progressing on through environmental baseline and prepare that project for further engineering studies and permitting. A very exciting time, truthfully, for both projects. And with that, this is the last slide here. You know, what we want to do is make sure that we hold ourselves as management accountable to key catalysts, and we have a whole host of them through the balance of this year. I won't walk you through them, but they're solid, tangible catalysts that allow us to step along the path with the ultimate goal of getting the project ready for a construction decision and project financing in early 2026. And so with that, Anna, I'm happy to pass back to you for any questions that you have.
Perfect. So, talk about the recent executive order to increase domestic critical mineral production. How does that impact your ability to source federal funding?
Yeah, I think it's quite a game changer for mining and for smelting in the U.S. I think, people have come to learn that there is a massive domestic supply demand imbalance for copper specifically, and also from a smelting capacity perspective. So that executive order really is looking to prioritize both of those, looking at permitting timelines. That's obviously a little less critical to us as we have our permits in hand already, but also looking at ways to prioritize funding into domestic miners. So we think it's going to open up a host of avenues for us, which we're excited to chase down.
Perfect. And you talk a lot about community engagement support. So, why is this so important?
It's important to be welcome. Having your permits, of course, that's from a legal standpoint what you need to build. And of course, we're very happy that Michigan has strong regulation in place, regulation that is environmentally forward, certainly from our perspective. But you also want to be welcome. And that's why we spend a lot of time in the community, at town hall meetings, just making sure that we have education into that area and so on and so forth. And it's been quite resounding, certainly at the very local Western UP region in terms of the support. And it's a historic mining district, and they're looking to bring it back.
And a large component of your current site work is around environmental mitigation. So, why is that necessary at a mining project?
Yeah, like I said, mining has an impact. We understand that, but you have an opportunity to minimize it. For instance, this is an underground mine, not an open pit, so a modest surface footprint. Of course, you have an obligation and a desire to mitigate. So, as and when we disturb any land, we have an obligation to offset that with new wetland and new streams, as an example. And lastly, through responsible closure. So there's a whole host of ways to mine well, where the environmental controls certainly don't have to be at risk, relative to the employment that it naturally brings to the region, and of course the domestic supply of copper.
And what's the relevance of getting detailed engineering to 40% complete?
Yeah, that's a mark that we think allows us to defend ourselves in a project financing and a due diligence. When you look to put debt in place, naturally, debt providers go through a host of technical diligence on the mining process, water management, tailings side. And that 40% really allows you to finalize your design, really understand the risk profile of all of the work packages, and defend yourself. And interestingly, on the tailings management area, certainly an area of risk, we're looking to detail engineer that more up to the 80 to 85% range to make sure that we have sound design and fundamentals as we consider construction.
And given you have two projects in your portfolio, is there a larger regional play in the district?
Yeah, listen, I would certainly say that's the case. The UP and the Western UP in particular, it's referred to as copper country. There were many mines scattered along the east-west corridor over the last 100 years. There's a really nice opportunity to bring that economic boost back into the region. Acknowledging that Michigan put new mining legislation in place that is current and modern in 2004. It really takes into account all of the elements from a mining perspective. So we think it's an opportunity to come back in. There are others, Talon as an example, Lundin with the Eagle Mine are in the region. We look forward to responsibly building it out as others are doing at the same time.
And do you have an opportunity to secure external financing through any partnerships?
Yeah, listen, there are a host of ways to secure funding from a debt perspective. Naturally, there are private equities and otherwise that will be looking to financial institutions, of course, soliciting interest from strategics, particularly in the U.S. to the extent that's available, and we think that will be over time. And naturally, from state and federal sources, I think there's other opportunities. Given the profile of copper at the moment, I think that Copperwood simply is a project that needs to be built.
Thank you so much for this update. Do you have any closing remarks for our viewers today?
No, just that we will continue to hold ourselves to these nice catalysts. We'll continue to report out our progress. I think particularly, keep your eye out for the network in the next couple of months. transitioning from phase one to phase two engineering. And of course, we'll continue to update the market on advances on both state and federal funding. Excited to get this project moving towards construction in 2026.
Great, exciting times for you. Thank you so much for joining us back on the conference.
Thank you, Anna.
All right, everyone. Well, that is it. On behalf of all of us at Emerging Growth, thank you to all of our presenters and attendees for making this a success. Remember, a complete replay of the conference separated by company will be on our YouTube channel, and please follow us on X at Emerging Growth C. We always post new information on X first. I'm Anna Berry, and you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next month.